Jesus gives a simple instruction. When you invite people to a meal, don't invite people that will invite you back in turn. Sounds such a simple tip for social etiquette. But I want to argue that this little story contains great wisdom about the way God's world works. Let's start up above with God. God is three: Father, Son, and Spirit. Yet the three are so united in will and love and generosity that we can truly say that God is one and one alone. The members of the Trinity, it wouldn't be right to say that they're shy exactly, but have you noticed they're always deflecting our gaze to the others? This is my Son, listen to him. The Spirit will glorify my Father. And I do not speak on my own behalf, but on behalf of the Father who sent me. All of that stuff. Their relationships have no hint of competition, of what the Dominican tradition calls do ut des. That's Latin, which means I give in order that you may give. That's how it works up above, but it's also how it works downwards from God. All substance, all existence, all blessing flows from God as an overflow of the love of the Trinity, the love that they eternally have for one another. And we are to receive it as a gift in the context of relationship. It isn't that God gives in order that creation may give something back. It's free gift, given gladly with a smile, all of it. And that's also how it works, as it were, upwards. We don't give God our obedience and our worship and our contemplation because we hope for reward or fear punishment. It's just that we love God, so we gladly give of ourselves. Now, as it says in the very next verse that follows Jesus's instructions here about party invitations, amazingly, God does in fact reward us. But that isn't why we live relational lives, and that isn't why we give to God. So generous relational living is the way God is, and it's the way God's creation is, and it's the way our relationship with God is. And Jesus's words about who we invite to dinner make it clear that this is how it's meant to work down here as well. There is such a thing as a free lunch, or there definitely should be. No bargaining. I'll serve them crab in the hope that they'll serve me lobster. No stinginess. When they invited me round, they only gave me a digestive biscuit. So I'll tell you, I'm not going to use that new coffee maker when they visit me. Yeah, in my family growing up, we used this logic about Christmas cards. They send us a piddly little one with just a robin on it last year. I'll be blowed if I send them one of our nice gold ones with the dome on the rock on this year. Back to the Dominican tradition. The Christian life is a matter not of do ut des, I give in order that you may give, but of do das gratis. I give freely, you give freely. Because God gives freely, regardless of whether I deserve it, and spoiler, I don't. There's nothing I could ever do that could make God love me more than God does right now, because God's love is already 100%. There is nothing I could do that could make God love me less, because God's love is unconditional. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. I don't have to seek the prestigious seats at table or the prestigious title on the website or the credit for the project I had something to do with at work or the kudos that comes from having children who are academically gifted and or look good in photos and or have volunteered with street children in Yemen. If the host sees you and gives you credit, and invites you to a better seat, great. Accept it graciously. And if she doesn't, no worries. Life is not a competition. You have already been dealt a winning hand. You have nothing to prove. Dodas gratis. I give freely, you give freely. Two free human beings, or one free human being and one free God, who treat each other with generosity, regardless of what we receive. Generous non-reciprocity. So, at this point, I kind of have to mention parish share, I think. We, the diocese, said at one point that parishes would get the ministry that they pay us for. Pay us a little, you won't get a paid priest. Pay us an average amount, you'll have a paid priest. Pay us loads, we'll probably give you 2 or 3. I'm so sorry. That isn't the way it's supposed to be. Oh, don't get me wrong, the way it is highly challenging, and there are no easy answers, and we're not going to be able to keep everyone happy. But the transactional way of thinking about it, you get what you pay for, is absolutely wrong. We are to give because we love. Each of us are to give a proportion of our income, freely, sacrificially, cheerfully, monthly, unconditionally. I give freely, you give freely. Which brings us to our reading from Hebrews, which talks about hospitality. Show hospitality to strangers. I guess the writer's assuming we're already being hospitable to our neighbours, but now we're finding ways, safe ways obviously, don't ever do anything that puts you in danger. We're finding safe ways to welcome strangers too. I've had the great privilege of coordinating the diocese's response to the Ukraine crisis. Thus far, we've matched 53 refugees with rooms offered by church members like you in East London and Essex. We have people living in church members' rooms who've lived in underground car parks to shelter from the shelling, who spent time on the Russian side of the front line, having to hang out and avoid speaking in a Ukrainian accent. People who arrived with literally their children and a change of clothes and nothing else, and the artillery dust still clinging to them. And our hosts welcomed them freely and fed them and are helping them feel safe and recover and become self-reliant and find work. They didn't do it to receive anything in return. They certainly didn't do it for the £350 a month, and that's just as well, because the payment software on that is utterly unfit for purpose. But here's the weird thing. Although the hosts and the parish hubs were not motivated by thoughts of reward, God does in fact cheerfully outgive them in spiritual refreshment and relationships and a sense of purpose. Churches find new life when they look out and give. The hosts treat the guests as if they were angels from God, and to their surprise, they find themselves blessed as if by an angel. Well, that's how it works most of the time anyway. You won't be surprised to hear there's the occasional situation that's a bit different. As we emerge from a traumatic couple of years, Bishop Gully's been reminding us that we don't know where we're going, strategically speaking. So we should concentrate on how we're treating each other on the journey as we travel to that unknown destination. The past is over and gone. The medium-term future is a puzzle, but this present moment is a gift, to be received as a gift, to be given to each other as a gift. That's why they call it the present. Businesses have a market culture, they can't help it. The state has a bureaucratic culture, that's just the way it is. But my sisters and brothers, the church is to have a relational culture, a glad, hospitable, do das gratis, generously non-reciprocal, I give freely, you give freely culture, a culture that replicates on earth the mutual generosity of the Trinity.